Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Kevin Powell. Man, I love talking to bands, whether it be at a big festival live or just kind of one-on-one like this, where I have the whole band. It doesn't matter. I love talking to bands. I love being able to get more information out about bands. Maybe you can discover said bands. And that's what we're kind of doing today. I got another heavy band for you here. They've been around a little bit. They got some albums out. We're talking about a new album today, too. I have The Last King. We have Andrew and Jack. How we doing, guys?
Hey, how we doing? Good to talk to you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
I see the Black Dahlia Murder poster in the background. Are you excited about the new album?
Oh my God, dude. Excited is an understatement. Black Dahlia is my favorite band. Big influence for TLK as well, actually. But yeah, I love everything they put out. Obviously, the news about Trevor was devastating for most of us. But, based on the couple singles they put out and based on seeing them live last year, I don't think they're going anywhere for a while. Brian has been absolutely killing it. And
that's actually what
they're still there.
That's actually what the entire podcast is going to be about. So now we're going to be talking about the Black Dahlia Murder for the next half hour. I'm just kidding. We're talking to The Last King. So we have Andrew and Jack. What do you guys do in the band?
I am the bass player.
I'm the vocalist of the band.
And have you guys been in the band since the beginning? Have you guys joined later? What's going on with that?
So the only member who's been in the band since the beginning is Brett. Unfortunately, Brett was not able to be here tonight because he just got his wisdom teeth taken out. So he's having a lot more fun than we are, that's for sure.
I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah, no, Brett founded the band about 10 years ago with some of his friends from high school, carried the band into college. I joined about 7 years ago. So I'm the second oldest person in the band, I guess, or at least as far as tenure goes. I joined in 2017. I joined when Brett sold me tickets to a show, and I came and I saw TLK with their lineup back then, and I was very impressed. They were the only local band that I enjoyed the entire show, and it was like Summer Slaughter that year. With Black Dahlia headlining, by the way. But they were the only local band that I liked. And about a month later, I see that they're looking for a bassist based around Worcester, Massachusetts to play a couple shows. And I'm a bassist who was living in Worcester, Massachusetts at the time. So I was the first person to respond. I showed up, I knew the songs, and here we are like 7 years later.
I bet it doesn't feel like 7 years.
It does not, especially not with, that casual pause that the entire world took a couple years ago.
Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, and that's when I joined. I joined in 2020 when the whole world was going to shit. So they had a vocalist when they were writing a new album, the last album that we just released, The New Age, and their vocalist had quit, kind of leaving them in a tight spot. And my other band that I was in at the time was writing a new album. And we were kind of stagnant. So they reached out to me and they're like, hey, if you like what you hear, if you want to be a part of it, so be it. And I just kind of gave the album a listen to at the time. And then I threw my vocals on the track, and the rest is pretty much history. And that was like 4 years ago, which is pretty hard to believe already.
It does fly by, and I was jamming out to album before, we hopped on here. Sounds fantastic. So I do want to know more about the Calling from God's album. What was really the creative process behind this album?
So this one was a little tough because, we kind of made it during a pandemic. So the world kind of went to shit. Yeah, right around 2020, which was when we were in the process of finishing up the New Age and releasing that and everything. But at that point, we had already been writing for this new album, Calling from Gods. But the problem was that, the few shows that we were able to play around then were in support of the New Age. And so whenever we got together, which was not super frequently, we were jamming songs from the New Age that we had to learn for shows. So we didn't have a lot of time to jam these songs together as a group before we really hit the studio. So we had the songs down pat. We had the songs written out in Guitar Pro, and that was kind of the creative process was, me and the two guitarists, Brett and Chance, we were just kind of popping files back and forth amongst each other. And then Tony, our drummer, as he joined late during the making of this album. But we were just kind of tossing tracks back and forth while Drew was coming up with the lyrics and everything. But the first time we really put a lot of these songs together was when we were in the studio making this happen. And, you know, we had our producer, Ian, who was kind of helping put everything together. But due to the fact that we were trying to make it during a pandemic, it was kind of a long and arduous process of finding time we could all get together at the studio. We recorded in Westfield, Mass. At the Zing Studios. A few pretty big metalcore albums were recorded there. So we had the opportunity and we went with it. And it was great. I'm glad we did it, but it was a long drive for all of us, let's say. So it was tough to schedule time to really get together and work on the album. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say like the album kind of came together as we were recording it and making it. Because like I know a lot of my parts as the bassist, I usually, you know, come up with whatever based on the guitar pros that I'm sent. But when you try to play along with a real recorded instrument, things don't always sound the same. And so I was kind of tweaking a lot of my parts on the fly to try to match how the guitars were playing. And ultimately, I think it turned out pretty well. But, you know, it was not easy trying to make this happen during the time that we tried to make it happen. Well, let's say.
At what point did it become easier?
Probably once we started getting together more often, once a lot of the like social distancing had kind of restricted a little bit and we were able to actually get together in person. And then as the songs started to take shape, like as we had like demo 1 and demo 2, etc., like as we started hearing how the songs came out in person, that was what made it easier to be like, oh, okay. Or at least for me, I was like, okay, hearing the real guitars is what basically I need to make the best bass lines that I can. But yeah, really hearing them come together with real instruments, I think is really the turning point, at least from my point of view. And so I think this next time around, we're going to try to get some like demos pre-recorded before we hit the studio, kind of a lessons learned type thing there. But again, I was how it turned out.
I was about to say every recording, every get together, every time frame that we're talking about is a learning experience for artists. You guys went through the pandemic. Hopefully we never do that ever again. But if you do, guess what? You got it down.
Yeah,
you know what to do.
Yeah.
We definitely know what to do. That's for sure.
So Andrew, what's your take on this? You came in during pandemic. You had to write some lyrics. So what happened there?
So this album was the first album I actually wrote all my original lyrics on. The last album, it was Jack who made the lyrics for that album, which was convenient and it definitely tested me. But so for this album, I wrote all the lyrics from start to finish, and I just kind of drew inspiration from what was kind of going on in the world at the time. Or, you know, I'm a big fan of horror, so if I was watching a horror movie, you know, I would kind of, you know, draw inspiration from that as well. We have a song called Ancient Master, and that song's basically about the Collector. Have you ever seen that horror flick or kind of thriller, I guess? That song's basically about that movie. So, the whole process, it was difficult. It was fun, though. I loved every second of it, especially being in the studio like that. Especially, you know, some of my favorite bands have recorded in, or some of their first albums actually made it somewhere, you know. It was just kind of a surreal moment, just kind of being one of those vocal booths that, you know, like Howard Jones or Jesse Leach have recorded their vocals in, right? So, but overall, I mean, I'm very impressed and pleased with the way the record came out.
And we had fun every time we got together, right?
Oh,
we had some fun times in
we had fun.
And you said the studio was in Massachusetts, right?
Correct. Yep.
So Massachusetts to me,
Studios.
Man, I love that place. I'm a big Dunkin' Donuts fan, and I'll tell you what, there's no shortage of Dunkin' Donuts in Massachusetts. So I want to know from you guys, what are some of your favorite tracks off of this new album and why?
So my favorite tracks would definitely be Signs of the Goat and Plotting for Demise. Just the way that this catches you, the grooviness of the song, the way my vocals hit. I feel like I did a really good job in the vocal performance on those. I kind of did different styles that I don't normally do. But I'm very impressed and pleased with those two songs.
I'd say Plotting for Demise as well. And then I would also say Ancient Master, as well as the final track, the instrumental, because I think those three are where the instruments kind of shine the most. Like, I'm really proud of the lines I wrote for those three songs. We all kind of knocked it out of the park on those three. And I think instrumentally, they're the most well-written tracks on the record. So I know it's kind of cheating picking three when we only have 8, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Talking to The Last King right now, and these guys rule. They got a new album out right now, and I'm talking to Andrew and Jack. So we're talking about musical influences now. We were talking about Black Dahlia Murder at the very beginning. I want to start with Andrew, and then we're going to go to Jack. Tell me about some of your musical influence, whether it be as a whole musically or vocally or whatever.
Sure. So definitely Black Dahlia Murder. Trevor was a huge inspiration of mine. I tried to, get my vocal pitches and style just like his, and definitely Randy Blythe. I love the way he pronounces pretty much every word. You can really understand his vocals. Phil Bozeman, Whitechapel, another one. I love CJ McMahon from Thy Art Is Murder. All those guys are like huge influences of mine. I love the raw energy and power that they have behind their vocals, and I try to implement that, as best I can.
I think what makes you stand out is that we can actually understand every word that you're saying, and I think that's a big trademark of like Trevor and Randy specifically. Like, they are very easy to understand, at least as far as harsh vocals, though, and I think that's one of the things we love about your vocal style is that we can understand it. It's not the same. It's not the same kind of noises that every other deathcore band is making. Like, it's bringing something fresh to the table.
Right on. Appreciate it.
So, Jack, how about you? How long have you been playing bass? What kind of bass do you play? And what are some of your favorite bass players?
I've been playing bass for about 20 years now, which makes me feel old. But yeah, most of my life I've been playing. I was turned on to the instrument by the fact that my aunt, who I thought was super cool and still do, she started playing the bass right around the same time my parents showed me Victor Wooten. And so between those two things, I really wanted to become a bass player. And so I got hooked on it immediately. And, I've been doing it ever since. What kind of basses do I play? I only have one 4-string bass. I have 8 basses right now. Only one of them is a 4-string, so I play mostly extended.
Oh my
range.
goodness.
Most of them are Kiesels as well. I really like the Kiesel guitar brand. PLK as a whole does, actually. We all have multiple Kiesels. I have 4. But then I also have a couple other basses that I've just accumulated over the years. And then, as far as my influences as far as players go, I mentioned Victor Wooten. He's probably my biggest influence overall, just because he introduced me to the love of the bass guitar. And I'm still trying to emulate some of the stuff that he was playing that I was listening to when I was a kid. And it's probably going to give me something to work on for my entire life. But, I just really appreciate the different techniques he brings to the table, and then how humble he is about it too. I've heard so many stories about him being at Berkeley and just being the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He does a lot of jam sessions that I want to try to sneak into at some point. And then as far as metal players go, probably Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse is a big one. Steve Harris from Iron Maiden was a big one. He's what got me really into playing fast and using the 3-finger technique that I use a lot. And then guys like Nick Shins, I'm not going to try to pronounce this last name, Nicky Shins from Job for a Cowboy, Cephalic Carnage, Killian Duarte from Abiotic, Scale to Summit, guys like that, Evan Brewer from The Faceless, and Entheos and Fallujah now. Like those guys are kind of taking the techniques that I really love about Victor Wooten and they're bringing it to the metal scene. And because of that, kind of, I really enjoy the playing that they do. I actually took lessons from both Killian and Nick, and they're both great dudes, great players. Really learned a lot. Like I finally am starting to get the hang of some of these crazy slap techniques that I didn't understand for about 15 years, and finally kind of getting a hang of it thanks to those guys.
You finally had that aha moment.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. It's like I was in a lesson with Nikki Shins and I just had the aha moment. I felt it hit. I was like, I finally understand this. So I was like, thank you.
That's awesome. And I ask about the influences because you can definitely hear these influences coming through on this record. So fantastic influences, fantastic fans of bands here. Behind the scenes stuff here. What's something that fans might not know about the band?
Yeah, sure. I'd say one thing is that we all live pretty far apart from one another and that we all have pretty active like day jobs and careers and everything. So that's part of the reason why it's so hard for us to get together. So like I'm an engineer, Drew's a roofer, Brett is a car salesman, Chance is a plumber, and Tony, I think, works in a warehouse. So we're all very busy with that. And then we have 2 guys in New Hampshire, 2 guys in Massachusetts, and then Drew all the way down in Rhode Island. Yeah, wow. So Southern New England represent. But yeah, that's something that you don't really see behind the scenes. Like every time we get together is like a monumental event in and of itself. It sucks because we love getting together, but it's like we only really are able to do it when we need to. And then when we get together, it's like all we want to do is hang out because we never get to see each other. And so it's so
true. So true.
Yeah. So like a lot of bands will practice every single week. And like we used to do that back in the day, but like we just can't do that anymore. Like we really just kind of
just not feasible.
Of our work on our own time. And when we get together, whenever we can, we're kind of just expected to know our stuff and make it happen. And, you know, we always do.
Now, you're probably going to tell me yes. I'll be very surprised if you tell me no. So when you guys do get together, I'm guessing each of you individually practice somehow at home. And then when you get together, you're like, oh, yeah, we do all know the songs. Heck yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be a very big waste of time.
Right, exactly. I'm always amazed on how tight we are. I'm just like, it's like a 50-50 shot. We're going to know the song or not know the song. But I'm always amazed every single time. And, you know, I have my other band that I was in, you know, like we practice, you know, every Thursday, you know, once a week and whatnot. And then, you know, with the Last King, we practice like once a month. I'm like I said, again, I'm still always amazed on how tight we are.
Yeah, that's during the busy season too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, if there's a will, there's a way, and you guys have proved that. So with Calling from Gods out now, what's next for The Last King?
I think we're going to film a music video relatively shortly and hopefully release it before end of year. Is that going to be the title track of the album, Calling from Gods? So we'll be releasing that song. It's already released, but we'll be attaching a music video with that song. That's on the agenda. If it gets released at the end of year, that's that's the plan. If it happens, who knows? We'll see. As far as that, I mean, we'd love to do more shows. You know, like to do maybe a small tour on the East Coast. That'd be something of in the works or a goal of ours we want to accomplish. I mean, do you have anything else to add, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, we have one more show lined up for this year. It's October 5th in Connecticut. We're part of the Plagued by Birth Festival that's going on that Friday and Saturday. That's the last currently booked show for the year. And then, yeah, we're usually a little bit quieter during the winter months, but, you know, we're going to be using that time, or at least I am, to be kind of working on some new music. We've already started doing. We have, I think, already about 4 or 5 songs that are kind of in the songwriting stage. And like I said, what I would like to do this time around is really start trying to record some demos for these that we can use as a reference before we really like bring in a producer. So that's probably what we'll be doing mostly during the winter time. And then, yeah, probably come spring, summer of next year, yeah, hopefully more shows. A smaller tour would be ideal. Something a little longer than a weekend would be great. But, you know, again, life kind of throws curveballs at us too. So we're going to, you know, just take it one day at a time. And either way, we're going to be working in the background as we always are. So
the grind never stops, honestly. And, you know, you got to keep going.
Yeah, it never stops, but I don't think we'd have it any other way.
Yeah, we wouldn't do this if we didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
of course.
So we have everything kind of wrapped up as far as what's coming next with you guys. You guys have a new album coming out. Do you guys have any advice for bands who either are just starting out, want to move to the next level? I ask this question for every band, no matter it be just at Incarceration Fest with a lot of bigger bands, bands that just started out themselves. You guys have had however many years of collective experience, and every answer is different. So any advice from you guys?
Yeah, I'd say patience is key. Patience and you know, definitely promoting as much as you can, collectively working as a whole. So it's not just some one sole member of the band. Everyone is important, not just one guy. Everyone needs to contribute to, you know, pushing the band, you know, this way, you know, that member doesn't feel like it's all on his shoulders, you know, and definitely being open-minded and trying to, communication is definitely key. Communication is like the rule of all. You definitely need to communicate. You need to have a good communication.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's about finding a group of guys that you're willing to like kind of put this work into. Because yeah, it's impossible to succeed with just one guy doing the brunt of the work. Like it does, at least to some extent, have to be a mutual thing. And if you're not doing it with guys that you don't like, or where it's a struggle to like kind of get everything to flow together cohesively like that, like that's how bad blood happens, and nobody wants that. Like I think at the end of the day, what makes TLK work so well is that like we're all buds. And like I said, when we get together, it's almost hard to get anything actually done because we just want to hang out. So like that's something that is more important than you think. And like generally speaking too, just like, you know, don't be a jerk. Don't work with a jerk.
Nope.
Yeah, like Drew said, be open-minded, be willing to work with people, be willing to listen to ideas that aren't yours. Like, don't get like offended or like don't fight people or anything. Like, like we're all just kind of in this together, and like unfortunately, you got to learn to work with like all sorts of people. So very
well said from both of you. Be patient, be a good person, and like the Black Dahlia murder. Got it. So no,
that's basically it. Yeah, you nailed it.
Any final words you guys want to say to fans?
Anybody who's, you know, checked this out, checked out the band, gave it a like or a stream, or, you know, shared it with, you know, their family or friends or whatever, you know, that goes a long way, you know, and we thank every single one of you guys. You know, it means a lot to everybody in the band, and especially me too. So thank you.
Andrew, Jack, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'm actually going to continue talking to you guys off air. So we have Andrew and Jack from The Last King. These guys rule. It's a heavy band, and I love heavy music, and hopefully you do too. And if you haven't checked them out, well, they definitely put in the work. So there's really no excuse if you're a musician yourself and you got a group of guys, group of whoever, and you want to kind of get together and have fun. Well, these guys prove that you can do it, even if it's once a month. New album out right now called Calling from Gods. It's heavy. It's awesome. Go check it out. Go check out The Last King. And hey, thanks for checking out this episode of the podcast. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you next time.